Hello and welcome to another 2-Minute Tuesday. Let's start the countdown and let's go. One of the things that I always find annoying is that when you start using Dynamics 365 from scratch, you're constantly getting errors, right? Popping up on the screen saying things like, we found an error, do you want to send it back to Microsoft or do you want to ignore it? And you get these pop-ups constantly. Especially if you're using the application super fast. Like if you're a proficient user or if you're a super user, I guess, or a system administrator, you're moving in from entity to entity, from section to section, and you might get errors like this popping up on the screen once in a while. And in terms of fixing this, it's an easy fix. It's a personal user setting. So if you go into your personal user options and you go into the privacy tab, you will see that you can quickly either select to always send the errors or select to never send the errors to Microsoft, but at least the pop-up won't keep on coming up. The problem is, how do you solve this for all of the users you have in your organization? What if you have 2,000 users, 3,000 users, or even 500 users? It could be tough to go from machine to machine having to change these on a per user basis. So instead of doing that, today's tip is download the XRM Toolbox and use the user settings utility tool within the toolbox to set the user level settings for all of the users in your organization. So you can set things like, for example, the privacy mode, whether you want to always send the errors or never send the errors, like we started talking about at the beginning of this video. You could set, for example, whether you want advanced find to pop up in a detailed fashion rather than a simplified fashion. You can increase the records per view, right? Instead of having 50 per every page, you can increase it to 250. So you can switch a few of the user level settings for all of the users on your organization. Now, obviously this method is not meant to be permanent, meaning that if you add any new users, the new users are not going to have those settings. They're going to go back to default to the 50 records per page and the simple advanced find and the pop-ups every time they get an error. So you have to stay on top of it and make it sort of a task every time you add a user into the system. But at least for all of the 3,000 or 2,000 or whatever amount of users you have already in the system, they'll be good to go. You set it up at the user level for everybody, they'll be ready to go, and then just make it a checklist for any new user going forward. So I hope you enjoyed this tip, and we'll see you next week.